Hi, this is Rainbow Harmony, here to help you find balance and peace to live a more colorful life. And this is an LTD 2019 episode on what if your family doesn't support you? So our theme for 2019 is living the dream. We've had some amazing messages on what to do about business and how to move forward with your dreams, but this is actually a question that I get in my inbox and through my DMs and asked in personal readings daily. I'm dead serious, you guys. Daily, I have at least one person asking me this question about what if my family doesn't support me? And I've had a lot of people who have been having a difficult time in their life struggling with this. Now, this is something I personally struggle with, so I know a lot about it. And so I would like to share with you guys what I have learned on this journey and to be able to help anyone out there who has been through this. So there's a couple different scenarios and in a couple different ways in which you cannot be supported by your family. The first one we're going to talk about is financially. Let's say that growing up, maybe your family wasn't very well off or chose to buy into poverty consciousness. And so you were raised with the belief that money doesn't grow on trees, or you can't have it, or we don't have enough. Thoughts like that are linked to lack mentality. Okay, so now you're an adult. And so you might be programmed with these beliefs that you're poor, that you're not worthy, that money is the root of all evil, or anything, just like these subconscious beliefs that have been programmed into you by being raised in lack mentality, okay? Next, perhaps your parents didn't want to help you when you became an adult and didn't want to help you financially, or weren't able to help you financially, or didn't pay for your college, or you had to do everything on your own, which can be really great. It builds character. I didn't have really support like that after I became an adult. Not a lot of people do. It's definitely not your parents' obligation once you become an adult to pay for everything or to help you in life, because that is your responsibility as an adult, okay? But for some people, this can be something that's really difficult. Some people, because of the way they were raised, oh, my parents didn't help me, oh, I didn't have the support from them financially, oh, they won't give me money for this or whatever. People can have a chip on their shoulder, and also being raised that it's not enough, okay? So that's one way in which your family cannot support you, and that one for me, I feel like it's not really necessary. If you're in that situation and you're kind of blaming what you have or what you don't have or where you're at in life on your parents and you're an adult, to be real, it's time to figure it out on your own. Get a job, move out, don't be dependent on them anymore. Don't feel like they are obligated to give you anything, once you become an adult. And that's a really harsh reality, but I do speak to a lot of people who are like, my parents will help me with this, my parents will help me with that, and I'm like, how old are you? Are you an adult? Okay, time to figure it out. Okay, so if you're 18, 19, 20, 21, I'm really speaking to those of you guys who are late teens, early 20s, who have become an adult, because when you're not an adult and you're a minor, it is your parents' job to help provide for you, shelter, food, and to not neglect you and to provide you with your needs, okay, to help you. But unfortunately, not everyone will get that help with the education or this or that. So don't let your parents be the reason why you can't move forward in life when it comes to things that are financially, okay? Now let's go ahead and move on to something that's a little bit more intense and more emotional, okay? We're gonna dive deep today, you guys. Let's say your family, your parents, or maybe extended family, or who raised you, or even siblings, aren't supporting you emotionally. Let's say that you have a dream to start your own business. Perhaps you want to sell some type of product. and you want to come up with this product. Let's say it's skincare. You guys know I'm really into skincare. So maybe it's like a skincare line, and maybe you still live with your parents and you have a job and they're supporting you, or you have an apartment or you're living somewhere, but you still spend a lot of time with the family, and you guys are all around at dinner and you're talking about your plans and your future, and you're like, yes, I'm going to drop out of school and I'm going to study this thing to make skincare. And let's say your mom or your dad or whoever is telling you that's a really bad idea. Is that really sustainable? How are you gonna make the money? What are you gonna do until then? What's your backup plan? Blah, blah, blah. And then you're kind of at this point where you're like, crap, like, what do I do now? Like, maybe I shouldn't do this dream I have. Maybe I shouldn't go on this path. You know, maybe you want to be a musician or something, and your family says, oh, well, only so many people will get famous or make money from that. That's not really a good idea. You should go to school to be a doctor or something like that, you know? And so there can be a point where you have an idea, or you have a dream for your life, or you have a plan, and because of how your parents or your family were raised, or their own perspective about life, or the generation that they grew up in, they might believe that your path and your choices aren't like right when it comes to your job or when it comes to what you want to do with your time. So it's frustrating. You know, some parents will raise children and they'll have like an idea in mind for what they want to do. Like they'll tell you, be a doctor because everyone else in the family was a doctor. I'm not hating on doctors. I love doctors, by the way. That's your passion, go for it. Maybe they'll tell you, oh, well, you have to work in the family business your whole life because that's what we've always done, and you have to support the family and your obligation is to this family. But really, you want to travel, you want to move somewhere else, you want to have a home somewhere else, you want to study something else, you know? Some families might tell you, you have to go to college because that's your only way you're going to be successful when you're like a free spirit, super artistic, and maybe you have learning disabilities and it's just the system doesn't work for you and you don't want to do that. So, you know, there's just so many different examples. I can go on and on. I do readings for people about this topic every day. And the first thing I'm going to say about it for how to handle this is you got to realize kind of how bad you got it. If your parents are like a little strict, or your family's a little strict and kind of traditional, but they're loving and mostly supportive, no one's perfect, my advice would be, you know, don't cut off the relationship with the family just because they don't agree with what you want to do. This is in the case where there's not abuse present, you know, but maybe you're not going to want to talk so much about that stuff with your family. When you realize, you know what, they disagree, they don't support me, they really don't understand what I'm doing, maybe you can just have boundaries with them, and boundaries start with you. Okay, so if your parents or your family asks, oh, like, what are you doing with your life? Just keep it vague. Like, oh, I'm just working here, doing whatever. Oh, well, are you thinking about the future? Oh, were you gonna go to college or whatever? Oh, you know, I'm just taking it day by day, and then change the subject. And if they're gonna berate you and if they're gonna be on you about it, distance yourself, or don't show up to many family functions. Don't always answer those phone calls or text messages. You are not obligated. I want you guys to know that. You're not obligated to answer the text messages, to answer the phone calls all the time, especially if they're gonna constantly question you. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone, even your family, especially your family. You get to choose your own life, you get to choose your own path. And usually what happens, not for everyone, but usually what happens, let's say that you continue on your path and then you do reach some sort of success with this, and later your family usually will just support you and be happy for you. And it sucks because as you're going on that path, they're frustrated because you didn't go to college, or you didn't do it like this, or you didn't do it like that, or you were kind of distance yourself from them while you're trying to figure that out. But eventually they kind of see and they understand. And so that's what happens for a lot of people. So sometimes you have to kind of pull back. Sometimes you really need to go on your own path. You know, sometimes you need to grow up, move somewhere else, or just get some space from you and your family so that you can have that focus on who you are and find yourself and know yourself and be able to make your own choices. Some people have families that are really supportive and are like, you do you, here's money, you can live here as long as you want, I'll give you space, like I'm happy for you, I'm proud of you, like whatever. And that's awesome. You know, shout out to parents that are like that, shout out to families that are like that, shout out to people who have families like that. But I have a feeling like most of the people that are watching this right now don't have families like that, and you clicked on this because you're like, yeah, this is what I'm going through. So let's go to the next level, okay? The next level is if your family is kind of toxic and dysfunctional, okay? So maybe one or both of your parents are addicts or, you know, alcoholics. Maybe one or both of your parents is less than loving or abusive or neglectful. If it was really bad, you know, if there was a lot of physical violence or, you know, unfortunately if there's any sexual abuse, or like if it's really bad manipulation and emotional abuse and it has affected you and kind of screwed you up, and every time you go around they do it again and more, then you need to get out of there. I don't care if it's your best friend or your parent or your aunt or your uncle or your sister or whatever. Like if they're abusing you and they won't stop, like that's probably someone who has some issues, and it's unfortunate that there's a lot of people who are raised like that, but like get away, you know, no contact or low contact. Get a licensed professional counselor or therapist to help you work through what you went through. Even if you have to work another job to afford it, it's so worth it. And I know what that's like, you guys, and I'm sorry for anyone who has been through that, okay? Now, I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that their family's like this, and this happens a lot when you're an adult, okay? Because when you're little, you're dependent on your family for survival. You're dependent on them for your support and everything. And sometimes when you're little, you don't notice that you're being abused. You don't realize that it's toxic. And it's not until later when you get out in the world and you start connecting with other people and you start kind of having different experiences that you're able to really reflect on the situation and realize, wow, like that's hurtful, or wow, I was abused, or oh, maybe my parent isn't supposed to be hitting me, or, you know, so it's kind of shocking. You think that everyone who's been abused would like know, but like sometimes you don't know because you rationalize it in order to survive. So if you're in that situation where you're realizing one or both of your parents or a family member is abusive, whether it's emotionally, physically, psychologically, whatever, then you're gonna have to have really strong boundaries with that person, or like just don't talk to them or get yourself away from that situation. Okay, and that's really difficult because sometimes it's hard, you know, when you really want that approval of your parent and you really want that support from the family member and you're just not getting it, okay? So in that situation, let's say you're living with them or you're living near them, get a job, get 2 jobs, get 3 jobs. If you're like really depressed and like you just can't work, because obviously if you've been through that your whole life, you're gonna be depressed and you're gonna have some like anxiety, maybe depression, maybe it's gonna cause some issues, and that is a normal reaction to abnormal events. And you want to join some type of support group, whether it's online or in person. Do the research and invest in your well-being and your mental and emotional health. Get a therapist, okay? That way you can kind of work through it. You might have to be in therapy the rest of your life. That's fine, you know? I'm in therapy on and off all the time because of what I went through in my path, you know, and that's totally okay. We got to release our stigmas about getting therapy and mental health. Everyone's got something going on, you know? I think it's rare that someone gets a completely clean bill of mental health. You know, we all at times go through depression or anxiety or just different things. So you want to get 1 job, 2 job, 3 job, whatever you have to do. Stay in school and get away from the toxic situation. You know, if you have family, like let's say your parents are abusive and you try to get away from it, and then like you have a brother or sister that's still in the situation, or another family member that's still in the situation, you might have to distance yourself from them too, because sometimes they won't protect your boundaries with your parent. Like maybe you just don't want your parent to know what's going on, you don't want them involved in your life, you don't want them contacting you because it was extremely abusive and dysfunctional and they keep doing it, and then your sibling like becomes like the go-between or like still badgers you about the situation. Sometimes you need to get that off your back too. You know, I've talked to people who have abusive families, but like they have a brother or sister who's still in this situation and they really want to help them. I mean, that's okay, but honestly, help yourself first. Like your own health, your own healing is your own priority, and they're on their own path. So basically, when it comes to that situation, I have so much more that I can talk about, but the main thing I want to say is this is like, what if your family doesn't support you? Then just if it's really bad and abusive, toxic, then get away from it and do everything you can to get away, get far away, and start your life over, you know, and realize that that's their path, that's their choices. You never know like why people are here on this earth and like what their mission and what their purpose is, what their past was like, what their karma is, what they're working through. Does not excuse your family or family members or whoever from abusing you, but it does give you this space to be able to be like, you know what? I'm gonna go over here, you can go over there, and you do your thing, you're on your own path, I'm on my own path, you know? I don't think forgive and forget really works with this type of thing. Forgiveness is good and you can work through that in therapy on your own time, and you don't have to forgive if you don't want to. I think of forgiveness as taking the load off of your shoulders, of kind of taking the burden of carrying that around with you and letting it define you the rest of your life. That's something you'll be able to do, okay? So the next situation we're going to talk about is like religion or tradition, okay? So what if your family is extremely religious or extremely traditional and they don't support you, let's say, doing tarot or listening to a certain type of music or dressing a certain way or choosing a certain career path? Let's say you're a dancer and you're just like really into it, you know, and your family thinks that that's provocative or something like that. Let's say that you want to I've talked to people before who had family that was very religious and they wanted to do something in the entertainment industry, like they wanted to do acting or they wanted to do singing or, you know, like dancing, like I mentioned, but their family is against it because they think it's too, I don't know how to say it, but it's too pop culture, or it's kind of a faux pas when it comes to the tradition of the family or the religion. I talk to people from all over the world. So there's some people who have religions where they're not allowed to like have a boyfriend. They're just supposed to court and get married, or they're not allowed to dress a certain way, or there's certain things that are just like off limits because of the tradition you were raised in or because of your religion. And I think that there's people out there who grow up in that and they choose to respect the religion and they choose to stay in it, and that's fine. But then there's people who grow up in it and they're like, you know what? It's really not me. I don't really believe that. I want to like search and find my own faith and find my own truth, or I just want to express myself outside of those limitations. And so sometimes that can cause a huge rift in the family, you know, that can cause feeling like abandoned and feeling like you're not supported. And I've, you know, especially people who, let's say that you're gay, but your family is very religious, and so they think it's evil, or they think it's an abomination, or they think that you're sinning or something, or maybe you're trans or like whatever. So I talk to a lot of people like that where they've been disowned, or they've been put out on the streets, or they've been completely rejected by their family, by their community because of things like that. And so it's really difficult to go through that. For some people, over time, the family does become accepting, and it can be this beautiful awakening and growing experience for everyone. But a lot of times it can cause permanent separation or a permanent rift. So we have all these scenarios. I've given you guys a little bit of advice for everything, but I just want to drill down to the major point here, which is sometimes in society and culture, we get pressured that we have to honor our parents, that we have to always do what they say, or that we, no matter what, we have to kind of compromise with them or disown and neglect certain parts of ourselves in order to please them or in order to get their approval, okay? And I want you guys to know that in a lot of situations, honestly, most of all, you need to be true to yourself. If they're not going to support you, create distance and create space and create healthy boundaries. And remember, do not allow them to get you down. Do not allow the words that they say or the criticisms that they say or the judgment that they have to get you down or to make you rethink your path or to stop you on your path. And if you know that interacting with them is going to cause that and is going to cause you to kind of doubt yourself or you're going to be abused, definitely really distance yourself from that so that you can get your clarity and so that you can figure out what you want and who you are in this life. You know, I've talked to a lot of people who are living with their parents, and these days it seems like people are living with their parents even longer, 25, 30, 35. I've talked to people who are living with family and it's just so hard because that energy rubs off on you. It will rub off. So your environment, who you surround yourself with, is so important. So if you're in a situation where your family doesn't support you, I encourage yourself to do everything you can to distance yourself, work on yourself, live your best life, and eventually your family will probably understand. You know, if they truly love you unconditionally, then they will come around. A lot of times the judgment they have or the criticism that they have just comes from them really caring about you and maybe just being misinformed and just having their own opinions and just not really understanding what you're trying to do and just worrying about you like parents and family do. But for a lot of people, that the judgment and the criticism and can come from a dark place. So I think that it's important to distance yourself and just kind of see how it goes and see, like, is this coming from just their love and their care for me and that's just like kind of how they are and I just need to like learn to have boundaries and just distance and be my own self no matter what? Or is this dark and like toxic and like really like not healthy for me, you know? So there's a difference. And I think it takes time to kind of understand that and sort that out. There's a lot of resources online. If you feel like you're being abused or neglected, please go to psychologytoday.com and find a licensed or professional counselor or therapist to help you through this. If you are wondering more about it, I would recommend Lisa A. Romano's YouTube channel. She has a lot of advice on this that helps people heal from like narcissistic abuse or toxic family. And I would also suggest meditation on yourself, your personal goals, who you are. And I would also suggest writing in a journal about your feelings. You know, family can be amazing. They know you so well. And I think that sometimes that just creates clashes. But there's a difference between clashing or just kind of growing pains and then, like I said, abuse and neglect. So if your family doesn't support you, sometimes that's just life. Stop chasing after their approval. Stop asking for permission and live your life. I believe in you guys. I know you can. We were diving deep today in this message. I hope that it resonates with you. If it does, leave comments below. If you want to talk about your situation or vent something out, leave comments below. This is a safe place to do that. And let me know if I should make more videos about this. This has been requested a lot, so I just thought, you know what, today is the day. Thank you guys so much for your support. I am wishing you a beautiful rest of 2019, hoping that you're able to get on that path to living your dream, and I'll see you later. Peace out.